Good morning, everyone. Could the joint railroad meeting come to order for September, please? I believe we have a safety message that is automatic now.
That is correct, Madam Chair. So if you could please play it.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. I'm speechless. Anyway, it is a better announcement, and it is more thorough. Well, it's not better than you gave us, but it's more thorough than the information we had in the past. So in that sense, it's a real improvement. Now, I know several of the board members are interested in talking about the capital plan, and that's certainly been a discussion point throughout the last few days. I'm going to acknowledge time for that, but I'm going to do it at the end of our meeting because we have business to take care of first. And I'm also going to ask that each of you speak once for 2 minutes or thereabouts. We have some summaries of action first. Metro North.
So the actions...
I can do it.
No, I can do it, it's fine. So there will be an action item to obtain board approval for us to accept CMAQ funding to support our connecting services, and then as a procurement, we have one request to use the RFP for the design and construction of 3 traction power substations at Golden's Bridge, Croton Falls, and Katona.
So we'll see that under the action item for Metro North and in the procurements for Metro North. Phil, do you have action items?
Just one. Long Island Railroad requests the MTA Board to approve and adopt the resolution allowing competitive bidding, declaring that competitive bidding is impractical and not appropriate for the use of a design-build RFP to replace Ocean Avenue substation, and an option to replace the Belmore substation.
We'll see that in the procurement
That's in
section
the
of
book,
the
yes.
Long Island Railroad. Now, are there public comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have 6 public speakers. We ask them to please adhere to the 2-minute time limit. The first speaker is Orrin Getz, followed by Jason Pinheiro.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Orrin Getz. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Metro North Rail Commuter Council. On September 17, 2019, there was a front-page article that Metro North will receive $5 billion in the upcoming MTA 2020 to 2040 capital program. Included in this article was $187 million for improvements to Metro North service west of Hudson, which includes the Port Jervis and Pascack Valley lines. What the article did not mention was what items compose that $187 million. One project that is urgently needed is to improve the Suffern train station and make it handicapped accessible. On September 10th, 2019, Rockland County Executive Edward Day sent an excellent letter to Metro North President Kathy Rinaldi specifying the need to upgrade the Suffern station and make it handicapped accessible. On September 12th, 2019, I attended the New Jersey Transit Board meeting and raised the issue that New Jersey Transit has not yet told us when we're getting back our second weekday express train on the Pascagoula Valley line. This information is long overdue, and we need an answer from New Jersey Transit. I also brought up the issue that New Jersey Transit has not provided us with a status on PTC installation, which is a major issue. Metro North provides the status on PTC on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Pinheiro, followed by John Mitchney.
Good morning, MTA Board, and welcome to our September meeting. First, I want to thank Philip Ann to put the M9 service. I was grateful to get on it during the first day of revenue service. The doors that we use to transfer from car to car is pretty similar to the ones that we see on Acela Express. I had that feeling, but the outlets are too close to the windows, lack of USB charging ports and Wi-Fi. And also, since that I have friends that commute on the LIRR daily, they are feeling discriminated on the main line because of several reasons that could be from unannounced placement of the bridge plates between Woodside and Kew Gardens. This should have been indicated along, let's say, prior to the work, using the example of the New York City subways, that every time that they post the weekend service plans, they do it on Wednesday. So the Long Island Railroad should use that example. And each agency should be intercommunicated with each other. Like, for example, last weekend, we had several incidents along the region. And to end my speech this month, I want to see my improvements on the My Metro North website. That is too vague and doesn't indicate what type of car the commuter will see on their journey. So that's all I have for this month.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Mitchney, followed by Murray Bowden.
Well, I guess I wasn't clear enough the last time. Let me make things crystal clear that your continued discrimination against us on the main line is getting more evident with every day that passes. The way this modernization project is being handled without regard to the communities in its path is appalling. Shutting down service and then not providing any busing in place of trains is hurting our towns. In Mineola, where I live, businesses around our station have been losing a lot of money because the station is a ghost town. Instead of providing busing between Floral Park and Hicksville, you direct everyone to go to the South Shore and put extra service there, which is actually a longer trip than just using busing. And that is more evident of your favoritism toward the South Shore. Their towns thrive while our towns die. Then this past weekend, Long Beach branch riders get busing in place of trains at all their train stations. Come on, you don't think we're that stupid. Meanwhile, all we get is a shuttle to Hempstead, which is not safe area at all to wait for a train. Mineola is one of your busiest stations. Many people travel both east and west, yet without any busing provided, how are people supposed to get to points east of Hicksville from Mineola? Then I read that the Port Washington branch will get busing for a weekend in October. It seems everyone gets busing but us. You are violating our rights and, more importantly, the law, and I have filed Title VI complaints against your organization. You think you can keep getting away with trying to ruin our lives in the middle of the island. Just the other day, you canceled 2 mainline trains in a row, leaving an hour gap in service in the Ronkonkoma branch. We have vagrants hanging out our stations in Mineola, and MTA police is never around. We do not feel safe in Mineola at all. But I know we're not all finance professionals connected to Wall Street. We're all human beings and deserve a safe, clean service and substitute busing when construction work is done. And lastly, the way you treat Floral Park is criminal. That station is in shambles, yet Lynbrook gets a renovation even though it's in better condition because it's the South Shore. And to Mr. Phil Ang, I'm very disappointed in you. It's a shame you care more about your paycheck than taking a stand against the Wall Street corruption machine that runs this organization. Take a hard look in the mirror because you're all a bunch of snobs, and I know it hurts to hear the truth, but that's the truth. Look in the mirror.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Nancy Montgomery.
Your board outside says I should speak on the agenda. I pulled off this off the internet last night. I'm going to speak on Kathy's report today. It wasn't there. I'm sure it wasn't written last night between 10 o'clock last night and this morning. It could have been there for me to. So I'll come back after you make your report and comment on it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nancy Montgomery, followed by Ellen Sherman.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Montgomery, and I represent District 1 in Putnam County, which is close to the last stop on the Hudson Line. It is the service area with one of the most expensive rail tickets in your MTA system. When my children were little, I could not afford to bring my family of 5 to the city on your train line. I believe this is still the case for many of my constituents. It is expensive. For 11 years, I represented the town of Phillipstown, and I approved 11 budgets, always with at least 4 line items in the budget with MTA taxes included. In a month, I will be voting on my first Putnam County budget. Again, along with all Putnam County towns, we will be asked to approve hundreds of thousands of dollars in MTA taxes. Sometimes it feels like I see MTA taxes everywhere. Madam Chairwoman and MTA Board members, I believe you received a letter from the entire Putnam County Legislature on August 23rd. I am here today again to respectfully request action to increase safety, service, and sustainability of the entire Metro North system. Putnam folks pay the most to ride your trains. At close to $7,500 a year, we are nearly your last stop, and we are certainly the last considered when it comes to capital improvements. 4 out of 5 Putnam County stations are in need of repair. It is critical that the action items outlined in Putnam County's August letter be included in your 5-year capital plan. The high cost of train tickets, the lack of parking at many of the train stations in Putnam, the poor conditions of the Putnam County train stations must be addressed, and soon. Putnam residents also deserve to have improved service that electrification of the line between Croton-Harmon and Poughkeepsie would bring. Access to Penn Station right down the Hudson. This would have been good on the, sorry. Wish you guys had those alert systems on your train 6 years ago. So sorry. Access to Penn Station down the Hudson River should be an option as well. In addition, the proposed 125th Street Harlem Viaduct fix must be expanded. Please reach outside the box to find better solutions to fix the viaduct and make commutes easier. In addition to my constituents who commute to corporate Manhattan every day to keep this country's economy going, people who live in Putnam and ride your train are your employees. They are your first responders. They work in your hospitals here. They teach in your schools. These people face this long commute day in and day out, trying to make our lives safer and more productive. Let's make their commute a little better by implementing these changes in Putnam. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Ellen Shannon.
Good morning. I'm Ellen Shannon, speaking on behalf of the Metro North Commuter Council. As advisors to the MTA on behalf of its riders, we commend Metro North President Kathy Rinaldi and her team for the tireless effort they have put into creating the next Metro North capital program. We applaud the $4.7 billion investment. We are finally in the ballpark of a right-sized capital program for Metro North. Unfortunately, we're left scratching our heads that Metro North's hiring freeze continues. Having talented, skilled staff burn both ends of their candles is a losing strategy. It is time for headquarters and the governor to lift the hiring freeze so that this vital capital program can be properly managed. An important item missing from the program is the purchase of the Suffern Station from New Jersey Transit. The time has beyond come, as Rockland County Executive Ed Day clearly stated in a recent letter to Metro North. Suffern is a historic and exciting New York village west of the Hudson in New York, yet its train station is owned by the state of New Jersey. This is an appalling situation given the lack of attention New Jersey Transit has given the station. It is run down, and worse yet, it is not accessible. A law that prevents accessible vans from dropping passengers at the nearest accessible station, which for Suffern happens to be in New Jersey, means that passengers are driven 28 minutes north in order to take their Metro North train south, which makes no sense. The state of New York, please work out an agreement with New Jersey Transit regarding the fare income, but purchase the station and upgrade it to Metro North standards, including making it ADA accessible. This is critical to a successful West of Hudson plan. The village of Suffern is seeing a revitalization, and its Metro North station should be a place of pride, not the current embarrassment it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the public speakers.
Thank you to all the public speakers. We appreciate your comments and concerns and take them to heart. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Are there any changes to the Metro North work plan
No, there are no changes to the Metro North work plan.
and to Long Island Railroad?
No changes as well.
Thank you. Then we'll move right on to the Metro North report, please.
There we go. Good morning. As one of the guiding principles of our Way Ahead strategic plan, safety continues to drive all of our actions and decisions. And I'm happy to report that Metro North has achieved several milestones as we continue to move forward with our PTC implementation. The progress that we've made on this project is due to the hard work and dedication of the Metro North personnel who are committed to safety as our first priority. As we mentioned at last month's special board meeting, we began running trains and extended revenue service demonstration, also known as ERSD, on the Danbury branch several weeks ago. This achievement was followed by our entering full PTC operations on the Upper Hudson Line this past Saturday. This is between Croton Harmon and Poughkeepsie. We also submitted our comprehensive PTC safety plan to the FRA at the end of August for their review and approval. This detailed plan covers the functionality of the PTC system, evaluates safety risks, and how those risks are addressed through PTC or our operating rules. And finally, as part of the complete upgrade of the Port Jervis line signal system, crews will continue installation work this coming weekend on the section of track between Howells and Otisville. This new cab signal system needs to be in place to support PTC operations on the Port Jervis line. Along with our focus on safety, we continue to invest in our infrastructure to ensure not only safe but reliable train service. And as part of our Way Ahead program, we put our new Smart Track initiative in action, and we've been strategically shutting down continuous segments of track so that multiple work groups can have uninterrupted access to maintain and improve the system, and it's been very successful this year. Work taking place as part of Smart Track includes track and drainage improvements, installation of new ties, insulated joints, welded track, and general cleanup of the track area. It's allowed us to make great strides in improving the railroad's infrastructure on the New Haven line near Mount Vernon, and over the past 3 months, we've been focusing on the Harlem line in the Bronx. The work that we're just winding up now is being done on a 7-mile stretch between Melrose and Woodlawn stations. In that segment, we've installed more than 1,400 new rail ties, 2,000 feet of new rail, welded track, installed a crossover switch, insulated joints, cleaned up the right-of-way, and a lot more. The Smart Track program is the key to improving the condition of our track infrastructure, which will ensure the reliability of our service and will improve the quality of our customers' commute. And even though it's meant that we've temporarily needed to implement several service adjustments, including busing for our extremely patient customers at Melrose and Tremont during daytime and over 4 weekends, ultimately it should result in fewer and shorter track outages and less inconvenience for our customers. So enough about that from me. We actually have a video to share of our employees who performed all this work talking about Smart Track and its benefits to both our customers and our employees. So we're just going to run a quick video.
Metro North Smart Track program is one of our Way Ahead initiatives focused on investing in our infrastructure. Smart Track enables us to undertake critical infrastructure work by shutting down continuous segments of track over a period of time. That way, multiple work groups get uninterrupted access to perform important track upgrades. We asked some employees who were involved in the work how this benefits our customers and the railroad as a whole. And here's what they had to say.
Smart Track was an initiative that was developed last year in 2018. In the beginning of July of this year, we started working our Smart Track outages in the Bronx, and we took out track 4 between CP 106 and CP 109. So the various departments coordinated the work in that area, including power and signal and track, so that we could go in there and fix everything that needed to be fixed, basically, in the amount of time that we were given to do that.
It allows us to come out and perform our work and get work done on a larger scale. Instead of coming out here with a limited time basis on the weekends or nights and doing patchwork and never getting the job done completely.
Well, it makes our job easier because, once the track is out, everybody gets to work together, teamwork. Obviously, we got a watchman that watches out for the train for us, which is also a good thing that helps us, work safe.
I mean, you might have a lot of work scheduled at that one time at different departments. So when you got to continue track uses, you got, everybody could work under that one safety umbrella where, I don't have to ask for foul, foreman could, come together and put a plan where they all working together at one time. So the work getting done at that particular time, so it may stop a job that had to be done on the weekdays that could affect, rush hour traffic.
Makes it easy for us, so we're able to bring equipment out on the rail. Right now we're doing fence, so we're able to get large pipe, fencing, anything that we need to out into the job. Makes it a lot easier for the men than having to haul it all the way out to the job by hand. If we don't have continuous outage, you're moving faster, so it gives you a lot more time to actually be prepared and actually know exactly what you're going to be doing.
So we were able to do an extensive amount of work because we had the track available on a continuous basis. And all these things are things that you need to do to get the track into a good state of repair, so you're not going to wind up with having service failures and service interruptions. I ride the train, and I definitely noticed that the ride quality is significantly better, and that's just something that people take pride in, that are out there doing the work. They know that. Basically, the people that are the boots on the ground, so to say, they're taking ownership of this project, and that's what's been the really great part of it to see. This initiative came from a high level within Metro North, and I have a lot of respect for that. That it's understood that sometimes we have to think of different ways to do things, and this is a good example of that. And it's really been a success.
Turns out Smart Track really is smart, but that's Metro North, always working together.
So I'd like to acknowledge Meredith Conti, who's the star of that video, along with Mark Ward. So they don't usually get a lot of airtime at the Metro North Committee, so happy to give them a little bit of time in the sun. Anyway, okay. So Smart Track work, as I said, is actually wrapping up this week. So we're going to be changing schedules this Sunday, September 29th. With the work complete, all 4 tracks will be back in service, and customers are going to see significant improvements in train frequencies and will have more travel options. Later on in this agenda, Mike Schiffer will provide an overview of the new schedules, and that's going to include restoring full weekday train service at Melrose and Tremont. Speaking of train service, over the summer months of June, July, and August, we saw an improvement in service reliability as compared to the same 3-month period last year, as you can see on the chart. System-wide OTP was 94.4% in June, 92.4% in July, and 93.1% during the month of August, as we are seeing the positive results of our internal interdisciplinary working group that began meeting regularly since last summer with the main focus on improving service delivery. Performance by line in the month of August was 94.6% for the Hudson Line, 95.6% for the Harlem Line, and 90.4% on the New Haven Line. We do recognize that there have been service challenges, especially on the New Haven line, and we remain committed to taking the necessary corrective actions to address those challenges and minimize service disruptions. For west of Hudson service, the Pascack Valley line performed at 94.8%, and unfortunately, the Port Jervis line continues to struggle at 83%, primarily due to ongoing infrastructure work, signal and switch failures, and equipment failures. I'm challenging my team to take a proactive approach to improving service delivery on the Port Jervis line because it has really struggled all year, and you and I have spoken about that. As we anticipate the onset of slippery rail conditions in the next few weeks caused by leaves, this is a problem that we talk about every year. It affects all railroads in the Northeast. We continue to take a very proactive approach to minimizing delays and the inconvenience that slippery rail can create for our customers. Our established process includes instructing our engineers to report slippery conditions immediately to our OCC, providing additional training on how to operate through these slippery areas, enhancing our computerized train tracking system to allow for automatic reporting of slip-slide incidents and conditions, which enables us to take corrective action more quickly. We've installed a wheel impact load detector across all 4 tracks in the Park Avenue Tunnel. This device monitors for wheel flats that may have developed during operation and allows us to identify and prioritize wheels for repair. We've built a tandem wheel truing lathe in Harmon Shop. This state-of-the-art wheel true facility can cut both wheels on a truck simultaneously. This allows for proper wheel diameter matching and also helps us return cars to service more quickly, so we have enough cars available for our customers. And our partners in the state of Connecticut, the Connecticut Department of Transportation, has built a second identical facility in New Haven that supports our M8 fleet. Finally, we've also stepped up our efforts to keep our right-of-way as leaf-free as possible. We use 2 large high-pressure rail washers and several smaller rail scrubbers to remove crushed leaf residue from the tracks. And onboard sanders on our diesel trains automatically drop sand on the tracks to help improve traction and reduce wheel slippage when it starts to occur. Finally, as part of our Way Ahead plan, we continue on focusing on improving the customer experience with a variety of different initiatives. We finished the rehabilitation of the Middletown Station parking facility earlier this month. We're actually closing on property at the Fleetwood Station, which is an important location, and this acquisition allows us to preserve for our commuter parking needs 119 existing spaces with the ability under a new layout to add 12 additional spaces. In August, our own Anna Maria Bonilla, our Director of Structures, visited the Sloatsburg Station, and Randy was there, actually, along with Senator David Carlucci to mark a very small but meaningful request from the Sloatsburg Mayor Carl Wright to install a bench for customers waiting in the platform shelter. Our forces also made some station repairs, including installing a new tactile warning strip along the platform edge. And finally, we put the finishing touches on the new 14th Avenue overhead bridge in Mount Vernon, with benches, planters, and fencing comprised of artwork panels. We, along with our contractor, have now turned our focus to beginning work this year to replace the 6th and 10th Avenue bridges in Mount Vernon. Our customer outreach efforts continue with Connect With Us forums. We had one at Ossining last week, and the next one is scheduled for Mount Kisco on Wednesday morning, October 16th. This month, we're rolling out a new rail rewards program, which gives our customers exclusive offers and discounts at Grand Central Terminal shops and restaurants. By showing their tickets, customers can enjoy special deals and discounts at some of the Grand Central Terminal's favorite dining and shopping destinations. While the Rail Rewards program is new, for the past 25 years, Metro-North has been offering customers an ever-changing range of special travel deals and discounts. The Railroad's Deals and Getaway program gives customers discount packages to over 100 seasonal and year-round attractions, tours, and recreational adventures, easily purchased at full-service ticket vending machines or ticket windows. These programs are small ways for us to demonstrate how much we appreciate our customers and thank them for riding Metro-North. Finally, in closing, I want to report to the committee that on the home front, Metro-North has installed all of its Kronos biometric clocks, and as of this month, all Metro-North employees are swiping in. 85% of our employees have also been enrolled in the biometric program. I want to thank John Kesich, who's been leading up this initiative, as well as Yana Koslowski and Robert Leblong, who've been the boots on the ground in terms of controlling the implementation. So I want to thank them all for their work on this important initiative. And that's all I have.
Questions? Yes, Neil.
Are we going to talk about PTC now, or are we going to do this, Debbie, at a separate?
What we were going to do actually is, it's an information item for both railroads, so when we got to that, we're not going to run through the presentation, we're just going to ask any questions that you might have.
So is this the right moment then?
Why don't we wait until we get actually to the information items, if that's okay?
Kathy. I was a little, is that on? Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Neil. You're always there to help. I appreciate that. I was just a little confused when you talked about the Kronos program. You said all employees are using it, and then you used the term 85% are.
Oh, no, it's just that there are two aspects to it. There's the swiping aspect, and then there's the biometric aspect, which I think all of the agencies have been sort of doing it in sequence. So everybody on Metro North is actually swiping in now. And a good portion of people are actually doing biometrics as well as swiping. So 85% are enrolled in the biometric program. So it's sort of that two parts to the initiative.
Additional questions? First of all, I'm very glad that you're being proactive with the slip slide issue, because we're headed into that season, and with the number of trees we have on our properties, it's inevitable that we end up with flat wheels. So that's good. At some time in the future, could you give us a report on how the the rail rewards is working, and also on the joint tickets that we do? Occasionally we get a report on how much value that brings to the railroad. Do you have that scheduled?
We don't, but we can certainly, want us to report back next month maybe on that? Or in a couple months? Yeah.
I think in a couple of months.
Sure.
To see how it really.
Absolutely.
Give it some time?
Yeah, maybe the beginning of the
Okay.
year. Sure.
Great.
Whenever you'd like.
Okay. In that case, any other questions? Nothing? Customer service highlights?
Sure. Good morning. There was a slide up there, but I'm going to report the completion of the multi-year cellular display project. There you go. That brings real-time information to our stations. We utilize double panel, double display kiosks at 70 stations. We installed 140 of these units. The top unit provides train information at the respective station, and the bottom unit we could use for advertising, as well as PSA type agency messaging. We did utilize cellular connectivity to feed these stations to reduce the cost and supplement the reduced bandwidth we had at certain stations. And we will be integrating these units in with the communication systems that will be installed with the CSI project at our stations. Thank you.
Questions? May we have the safety report?
Good morning. The safety report can be found on page 43. Customer injuries continue to trend less than 1 injury per million customers and are down over 5% versus the previous 12 months. Employee lost time injuries are down over 20% versus the previous 12 months. Our community outreach program TRACS has reached 71,000 individuals through July of this year. And as part of National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which is this September, we partner with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. TRACS representatives will be at 4 local Out of the Darkness walks throughout New York and Connecticut. TRACS will also have a team participating in the walk in Westchester County on October 19th in Mamaroneck, New York. Metro North employees, family members, and friends will join the team and participate in the walk to support suicide prevention awareness. And finally, as part of National Safety Week, which kicked off yesterday and continues through Saturday, TRACS will conduct station and grade crossing outreach sessions with the support of MTA Police, Operation Lifesaver, CDOT, and FRA at various locations in New York and Connecticut. We will also be rolling out our 2nd annual safety poster contest for grades K through 12 this week. This concludes the safety report.
Questions on the safety report? Hearing none, may I have your report on Long Island Railroad,
Yes,
President?
thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a nice summer, and I hopefully much more nice weather to follow. While I trust many were enjoying everything on the island and the city that it has to offer during the warmer months, we were hard at work upgrading switches, removing grade crossings, and elevating bridges. Between Long Island Railroad Forward, State of Good repair work, and our modernization projects, we were able to achieve several major milestones this summer. This includes the delivery of the much-anticipated M9s, which entered revenue service in early September. A special thanks to board member Randy Glucksman for joining us on our inaugural ride from Huntington, which you can see here. But it was truly an unprecedented summer for us. Year to date, we've replaced 15 critical switches, including those at Amont Interlocking, located on the Port Jefferson branch, and Nassau Interlocking, which contains 17 separate switches on the mainline corridor. These locations see some of the highest train volumes in our system. On a daily basis, more than 100 trains pass through Amont, and over 260 go through Nassau. Given this heavy traffic and the age of the switches, we were vulnerable to component failures and service disruptions. In 2018 and 2019 alone, we experienced 57 incidents, resulting in 338 delays associated with 4 switches in Nassau. And as we replace and upgrade these components, we are seeing dramatic improvements in reliability. This coming weekend, crews will continue work at Nassau, bringing immediate benefit to our customers, and when work is finished, it will allow us to better allocate resources to other areas in the system. We also work closely with our partners at Amtrak on their efforts to bring Penn Station to a state of good repair through their own switch upgrades. We strategically place staff to support necessary outages, allowing them to complete their work timely. As we are doing across our system, we are demonstrating that we can accomplish critical work at difficult locations. I need to thank the Long Island Railroad workforce for their efforts and our riders for their patience as we rebuild and improve reliability and capacity for both today and for the future generations. And speaking of improved operations, I know that Janet Lieber will provide more details shortly, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words. Working with our partners in capital construction under Janet's leadership, we successfully replaced 2 problematic grade crossings at Covert and Urban Avenue along our busy main line. Each was completed over the course of a weekend, providing threefold benefit: a more seamless commute throughout this highly trafficked corridor, improved connectivity and accessibility within the community, and environmental benefits to the community through elimination of idling vehicles caused by down gates and sounding of horns from passing trains. The coordination between the Long Island Railroad workforce and the design build team could not have been done without the support of our labor leaders. Track, signal, power, all staff were instrumental in completing this work and demonstrating that the MTA is working even harder to deliver on our commitments. And while the traditional heavy construction season is winding down, we have more to do. Our aggressive state of good repair work will continue into the fall. As you can see, this month alone, we've taken on a tremendous amount of work, including mainline expansion work from Floral Park to Mervillon Avenue and from Carl Place to Hicksville, switch replacement at Nassau Interlocking, Sperry rail testing and repairs along the Port Jeff branch and Montauk branches, mechanized tie replacement between Babylon to Sayville, the Lynbrook Station improvements, and Sandy restoration work along the Long Beach branch. And next month, we'll continue to modernize our system. Notably, together with MTA Capital Construction, we'll replace and elevate Nassau Boulevard Bridge in Garden City, a bridge that has experienced 16 major strikes in 2018 and 19 alone, avoiding future delays and traffic congestion that's on surrounding roads. And later in October, we'll head further east, replacing North Main and Accabonac bridges in East Hampton, 2 bridges that, when struck by overheight vehicles, result in full service suspensions. Not only are these bridge replacements game changers for our riders and the neighboring communities, they will improve the reliability of service across all of Long Island Railroad, because we know that one incident at the wrong time and at the wrong place will quickly ripple across our system. We know that this work reduces our operational flexibility, but I want to assure everyone that we continue to strategize how to best get this work done in the tightest time frame as possible. We're optimizing on our outages to minimize service impacts and to reduce the need to go back to those areas. We are building a better system for Long Island, and I thank our riders and our neighboring communities for their patience. Our maintenance of equipment staff have done an amazing work to improve our existing fleet's performance, and the new M9s that we rolled out into passenger service will further improve service, allowing our crews to devote more time to work on our older fleet. We've received great feedback on the smooth ride, and our customers are enjoying some new amenities. With the pilot cars now in service, Kawasaki is committed to production until all 202 cars are received and in service. And reliability and availability of fleet is essential as we continue to see consistent growth in ridership, a true testament that the railroad is the best way to get around Long Island. This August, we carried 214,000 more customers than last August, and year-to-date, ridership has grown by over 1.4 million riders. And our on-time performance for August registered at 92.1%, a significant improvement from last year's August numbers of 87.4%. Overall, our year-to-date on-time performance is 92.9%, 3 percentage points higher than the same period last year. These figures, I believe, are even more significant considering the Considering we're accomplishing unprecedented work and carrying a record number of riders, I attribute that to our continuous efforts to proactively tackle problematic high-priority locations while we move forward with new initiatives and modernization projects. We have more to do, but the benefits will be transformational and long-lasting. So before concluding, I'd like to reiterate my gratitude to our riders for their support and patience during this heavy construction season. Every day during my daily commute, customers speak to me and provide me invaluable feedback. We've been carrying out unparalleled amount of work while improving service and growing ridership. It's truly a big accomplishment. So as a way to say thank you and add value to a monthly ticket, we are reinstating our autumn weekend program for this year. Beginning on October 12th, our monthly riders can bring up to 4 friends and family members for $1 each on Saturdays and Sundays, anywhere in the system. This also comes on the heels of a very successful summer conclusion to our Summer Saturday program, which saw our ticket sales for that program in August increase by almost 15% when compared to last year. These initiatives go hand in hand with our other customer initiatives, such as Loyalty Program, Meet Your Managers, Long Island Railroad Care, My LIRR train tracking tool, and the new Mamava Pod. We hope this continues to get people out of their cars and enjoy all Long Island has to offer this fall. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions?
Yes.
Kevin?
Thank you, Phil. One of the gentlemen who spoke, while I neither appreciated or condoned his personal attacks or threats of litigation, his comments about Mineola issues, are they related to third track construction or something else? And were his facts correct? And if so, what's the big deal about providing a couple of buses?
So in the past, one of the things that we had done is provide busing from every station along the corridor when service outages are done. We evaluated that, and in the past, we did not see the buses getting utilized to the extent that most people would find other means. However, we did provide busing from Mineola Station, which the gentleman brought up, and we actually spoke to the gentleman last week to get some information on this. But the busing that we have goes from Mineola to Hempstead Branch, and that actually is a very short, reliable ride. We enhanced the Hempstead Branch during these outages, so we have alternatives and we have options. They're just different from what we've had in the past. One thing we've done since we've spoken to the gentleman is we've spoken to Nice Bus. They have a parallel bus route along our mainline branch, and while the ticket for a bus ride is cheaper, if anyone has a ticket along our railroad, Nice will cross-honor it. So we are adding to what we've done. We have bus service available. We have train service available options, and now we've added Nice to that.
Additional questions? Well, I have to say that you are living proof of something that I believe, which is if you want to increase ridership, build a bigger and better railroad.
Yes, and we're intent on doing that, and we're showing that it can be done.
I think Metro North is too.
Yes, the whole MTA family.
Are you going to do your safety report, or shall we wait on that?
I think Laurie has it. She's
Okay.
ready.
Good morning. Our safety report can be found starting on page 47, and we're reporting our performance through the end of July. Our reportable customer injury rate decreased 17%. Over the same period, we saw a 4% decrease in the average reportable employee injury lost time injury rate. Two key highlights. This week is National Safety Week, as my colleague at Metro North pointed out. In partnership with MTA Police, New York and Atlantic Railroad, and the New York State Department of Public Transportation Safety Board, we are going to be out at 10 key locations where we find to be the most challenging, where we have broken gates and reports of pedestrians going around gates, to really highlight for folks in the community and our customers the importance of respecting and adhering to the downed activated crossing. We also, tomorrow, are conducting our Safety Focus Day, and the topics for tomorrow's engagement with our employees. We're launching our second annual housekeeping contest. We've found over time that slip, trips, and falls is the biggest driver of employee injuries at the Long Island Railroad, and that housekeeping goes a long way to help us prevent those types of injuries. And we're also going to be reinforcing the importance of being ready to work and strategies for addressing potential fatigue. Finally, our partnership with the MTA Police Tracks. reached over 65,000 participants during the period ending July 2019, which is a 19% increase over the same period last year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Yes.
Not a question, but a comment. I thought that the acronym for FOCUS is incredibly clever. Do we in Metro North have a comparable FOCUS series of days?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an initiative that started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We actually have changed it into Safety Focus Week, and we had it at the beginning of September because it was kind of hard scheduling sometimes to just cram it all in one day. So we actually have a Safety Focus Week, which was at the beginning of this month, and we do it on a quarterly basis.
Hearing no other questions, President Lieber, may we have the capital construction report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to give a slightly longer than usual report on third track for 2 reasons. One, because as Phil said, so much was accomplished over the summer, and we want folks to understand where we are and where we're headed. And 2, because I think this project is and is meant to be representative of the approach we're going to be taking in the post-reorg construction and development organization, which is going to bring together many different parts of MTA's construction groups from all over. So very quickly, we did have a very busy summer, but I want to start with the budget. The project's under budget and on schedule. We finished 25% of the work, including the portion of the work that's going to be funded in the next capital program. And but we've only utilized approximately just about 1% of the contingency. That's where you want to be. We did, in addition to that, we did borrow from the contingency for the purpose of accelerating some work because we saw an opportunity to actually move the schedule forward. That's how we were able to do the South Tyson bridge. In this, it was supposed to be funded in the next program, but we're doing it in this program. But other than that, only 1% of contingency spent. We have only 20 change orders, and most of them, and the majority of them, are actually credits. So lowering our costs rather than increasing it. So I think we're where we want to be financially. This is just a graphic that shows you that there's work going on all along the 10-mile main line area of the project, and I'll take you through some key elements. This summer, construction was finished in 2 bridges, the Cherry Lane Bridge, which we finished in June, and as I said, South Tyson Avenue Bridge, Floral Park in August, and we now have, I think Phil referenced it, underway a 3rd bridge, the Nassau Boulevard Bridge in Garden City. This is an image of the South Tyson Bridge, which was done the weekend of August 17th and 18th, and we're developing an incredible rhythm where we are able to, with the great work and cooperation of Long Island Railroad forces, we're able in these weekend outages to actually build bridges, build undergrade crossings, and get the railroad back in operation for the morning rush. This was not something that had been able to be done historically. Nassau Boulevard Bridge in Garden City, that bridge is going to be rolled in the weekend of October 5th and 6th. This is, as I said, the 3rd railroad bridge that we will have completed in this calendar year. Adjacent to Nassau Boulevard is the Maryland Avenue Station, which is being replaced throughout the corridor. Stations are being modernized to include new platforms, ADA-compliant mobility improvements, digital information signs, among other station enhancement. And construction is underway at 3 of the 7 stations along the main line there, Floral Park, Maryland, and Carl Place. And that's 3 more stations that will be accessible by the end of 2020. This is we like to highlight this because this shows the benefit of design building. A couple of these stations, we thought we were going to have to close them entirely for most of the duration of the project. The contractor came up with a way to build temporary platforms so that we could, in effect, stage the construction while maintaining service. It again highlights the benefits of design build. One undergrade crossing with all those incredible safety benefits has been completed at Urban Avenue. Phil showed the image of that undergrade crossing opening up, and another one is underway at Covert. And we've started work on 2 additional ones at New Hyde Park Road and School Street. The image shows the Covert Avenue New Hyde Park crossing. The work involved an innovative approach, which is building a precast box, a concrete box, and jacking it into place, which had never been done, as far as we know, on a railroad bridge in the United States. And we were able to restore service in time. A culvert is going to reopen to traffic in mid-October, again, much faster than we've been able to do in the past. This is an image of the reopening of the Urban Avenue crossing with the new underpass, led by the MTA police, opening that in a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to show you a quick video that'll capture some of that, only 1 minute long.
I have a better appreciation for the work that they do.
It's another proud day for Long Island Railroad. It's another proud day for the third track main line expansion project. We're roughly 4 hours ahead of where we're hoping to be at this point. A lot of planning, a lot of thought going into how this is going to be done, and the contractor really outperformed.
It's one thing for us to have these meetings at town hall and even on site and to talk about what's going to happen and what's happening, but to actually see it in motion, to see the dedication of the workers that were out there all day long. It was a really hot day that day.
That's the jacking system being put into place.
I think it's phenomenal. On Long Island, we rely on the Long Island Railroad to get back and forth either to the east end or going west to New York City.
We've got 2 parking garages currently under construction, one at Harrison Avenue in Mineola. That's now about 25% complete and will be done on schedule next summer. The foundation work at the Westbury North garage is well underway as well. A big part of the work that's going on is the installation of sound and retaining walls, which the retaining walls are important in this corridor particularly because they allow us to avoid residential property takings. That was a commitment that the governor made. It was part of the strategy that opened the way in terms of community support for this project to happen. Obviously, sound walls reduce noise from passing trains and enhance quality of life for everybody who lives along the line. To date, we've got 13,000 linear feet of walls installed, and there will be 18,000 plus anticipated to be done by the end of 2019. We always highlight this, the way we have linked the contractor bonus to community scorecards. Over the summer, we conducted our 3rd round of this community scorecard process, and the contractor earned $170,000 of their bonus, about 75% based on the feedback from the community, which I'd say translates to about a B plus. You know, there was overall, I think, positive recognition of what the contractor is doing in terms of community outreach and making good on commitments, but we are using this to press the contractor to comply in every way. We also use, and this is hugely important to our future going strategy for the construction and development organization, we aggressively monitor our own performance with dashboards in 50 leading and lagging indicators. We monitor the design builder, the performance of the contractor, but equally important, we monitor the project management team's performance, the railroad's performance in their partnership role, and especially the performance of our own force account forces. The slide shows a few of our key performance indicators, and as I said, one of the keys that I'm proud of and we want to emulate is that we're at 0 net cost in terms of change orders so far. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you for indulging me, Madam Chair.
Questions? Yes.
More of a comment. Thank you both for the kind words this morning relative to the Long Island Railroad workers involved in it. I just wanted to make sure that this committee and the board members know how serious our in-house unions take these projects. Our union leadership at the highest level have been out to these locations to make sure that things are going smooth and working, that caressing the relationship between the contractor work and then us having the responsibility of making sure everything gets put together and is safe to use the service, to maintain service that Monday morning, get things back to normal. I would just like to say that I think as a committee, we have to also recognize that this is great work and our operating budget is taxed by this kind of work. So I think throughout the year, rather than wait till the end of the year to try to defend things, I think we need to make sure that we understand the impact to our operating budget, because there's a lot of people out there working, and the statistics are there. We have lots of flaggers there that are making sure those contractors are safe, and we have lots of engineering forces there making sure that this stuff is all done and put together properly. So I just want to make sure that we recognize that we embrace the work. We consider it a very, very important part. And as we get to the capital program later in the meeting and we make comments, we need to understand how taxing it's going to be on that operating budget for us to keep doing it. That's all. We're proud to do it, and we welcome the work.
And I just want to underscore what you said, Vinny. We've had incredible partnership with the railroad employees, because as their work at the beginning of every outage and at the end to put the railroad back together so that we have the morning rush is so important, and creating that partnership has been one of the benefits of this tremendous effort on this project. You're right, the union leadership, and Phil recognized them, has been out on the weekends, actually rallying folks and making sure. It was super hot some of these weekends. It was really challenging conditions to make sure that we had success. So we're very much in debt to the workforce and to the labor leadership for the partnership that we've created.
Thank you for your comment, Vinny. I think, you've made a really important point, because we tend to focus on our capital plan. It's stuff for our constituents, and it's very important. But our operating budget is just as important and just as much at risk. The thing we forget is that in order to support that capital plan, we use operating money, because that's what pays our staff and management. So I think we have to keep that in mind as we go forward. We're looking at a capital plan right now, but we're also looking at the next operating budget, and we have to keep both in focus. Kevin, I apologize.
No apology necessary. Thanks, Vinny. Great words. And Jano, something you said in the very beginning, first, a terrific report. You mentioned that things are going really well with the third track, and we want to use this as a model for as we move forward with the capital plan. And the fact that you are ahead of schedule and under budget sounds like it would be a terrific model as we move forward with the implementation of the capital work plan. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Chief, I think it's up to you.
Good morning. Just to add to what was discussed regarding all the work being done, I'd like to point out that the MTA Police Department has been had a very important role in traffic safety, traffic control. We're at the gates, so we're at many of these sites, and we enjoy working with the railroads and getting this work done. Now, the MTA PD has been engaged in several new initiatives which have begun this past summer. To address the fare evasion problem and to prevent employee assaults in the subway, the police department, the MTA Police Department, has been deploying officers to various stations throughout the subway system. We have also partnered with the New York State Office of Temporary Assistance and Disability as task force members in assisting those in need of proper shelter within the transit system. So we are effectively enforcing the rules and regulations in the subway, and that's to improve the customer experience for all of our riders. As a result of these expanded duties, we are preparing for an increase of several hundred officers to be hired shortly. Members of the MTA PD Applicant Processing Unit, along with the MTA HR, are working at breakneck speed interviewing candidates as we speak. Now, this summer saw the usual heavy movement of riders to the east end of Long Island. Each Friday, MTA PD officers rode trains out to Montauk on the Cannonball. And I'm happy to report there were no significant incidents on that train. And on Sundays, we policed the Hampton Bays station for the very challenging Bordy Barn detail, also with no significant incidents. I want to thank all of our MTA officers for their outstanding efforts this past summer. Now, this crime report includes both the months of July and August, since we didn't meet in August. I'm happy to report that year-to-date, system-wide crime continues to be down by 18, or 11%. That's 148 crimes versus 166, or down 11. Now, year-to-date in the Long Island Railroad, crime is down by 6 crimes, 58 versus 64. And year-to-date Metro North, crime is down by 14 crimes, 81 versus 95. However, for the months of July and August, we had mixed crime results. July's system-wide crime was down by 8. However, August system-wide crime experienced an increase of 14 crimes. During August, Long Island Railroad had an increase of 5 crimes, 9-4, and Metro North had an increase of 9 crimes, 16 versus 7. Now, the crime that drove this August increase was grand larceny. There were 16 versus 5 incidents of grand larceny. Long Island Railroad had 7, of which 5 was property left unattended. Metro North had 9, of which 6 was, again, property left unattended. System-wide, 4 of those 16 resulted in immediate arrest by patrol. Now, last year's month of August was one of the lowest recorded months with a 13. And it's encouraging that the trend has been reversed during this current month, September, with 15 versus 23 as of Friday. And I also like to add, we're doing very well at Penn Station. As a matter of fact, we've had no crime at Penn Station since the month of April. And I hate to think that I just jinxed this, but that concludes my report.
Yes, Vinny.
So I'll be real quick. Chief, thank you on behalf of the frontline crews and the customers. Your patrols have been doing a great job, and the summer has been very busy, and ridership is up. We enjoy the partnership, and they do a tremendous job with limited resources at times to do the best they possibly can. So we look forward to you getting what you need to get the patrols where they need to be to continue the success you had over the summer and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Two points, Chief. One, I want to personally thank you. I know I had an incident at our place in Long Island over the summer, and I appreciate the personal touch, and certainly David Mack, your help with the Nassau County Police was very much appreciated. Related to Penn Station, what you mentioned, I was surprised actually to hear that about there have been no crimes at Penn Station. For those like me who walk around the area frequently, my office is at Hudson Yards, and I walk often to client meetings through and around Penn Station. The area on the surface is, I would say in point of fact, much less safe, or at least feels much less safe than you've described inside. I wonder, are there any partnerships between your police force and those of the New York City police force in terms of the general atmosphere inside and outside of Penn Station? Because at least my man on the street approach would tell me that things, homeless, etc., around Penn Station actually are not nearly as good as you've described here.
Well, what I've described was felony crime. And of course, there are quality of life issues throughout the area, one of which is drug use. Drug use is in around the perimeter, and we've addressed that with actually 84 arrests at Penn alone regarding drugs. And that's not done alone. We partner with Amtrak Police Department, which is also in Penn Station, and our partners NYPD. So we have drills. We have what we call mass operations, which is multi-agency super surges, where we actually have this super surge of uniforms inside and outside with the NYPD and our other partners in whether it's TSA, Amtrak, and the New York State Police. So certainly big partners. It's an ongoing effort as far as the quality of life, but the presence, the uniform visibility is actually affecting, like I said, the violent, significant crime. And we're going to continue to keep those partnerships going and keep the presence, very active.
David.
Chief, I'd like to echo Neil's congratulations. You're working very well with all of the other agencies, which are important to us, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Kevin?
Thank you. Comment and then a request. I'm going to repeat a comment I made at the last board meeting, and that is as efforts are being implemented to hire 500 new police officers for the MTA. We do have needs in the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North systems, and we should have some of those new police officers, be utilized or assigned to the suburban rail systems as well. And I'm going to continue to drive that home. And the number one issue I keep on getting phone calls on, and I've been pretty good because every time people reach out to me, I tell them to call Pat Foy or Phil Eng. But the one I get the phone calls about is still aggressive panhandling and other crimes at the Babylon Village train station. And Phil, I know you and Chief Monahan have been out to meet with the mayor and the state officials, and they continue to call me. And I'm just going to ask you and your offices if can we go out and meet with them again? I'll be happy to participate. And if we could do that, and your offices set up that meeting, and I'll be happy to participate as well.
Yes, yes, certainly. It's actually a good time for us to go back and provide an update. When we met several months earlier with the mayor, the senator, and assemblyman, and with regards to Babylon Station, a number of initiatives actually have been completed as we committed to. The seating and the areas where we saw quality of life issues congregating, we've eliminated those. Now we've seen it shift to another area near the bus station, and we're talking with the bus company with regards to further tackling that. We've also installed security cameras as we promised. I've been told that they were finished on Friday and they're functioning now. So our Office of Security has the ability to monitor the station continuously, and we'll work closely, obviously, with MTA PD with regards to any observations. We also expect the new help points that we're installing at ground level, not just at platform level, to be sometime in mid-October. So we're going to continue that, and certainly we'd be more than happy to set up that meeting and go back and give an update to Babylon.
Chief, Randy?
Yeah, I was driving in Natty Wet recently, and I was happy to see an MTA police car at the new Clarkstown Road grade crossing. It's one that people just don't know how to read the signs. It says don't stop on the tracks, but your officer was, and everything was flowing nicely through there. Thank you for being there.
Okay, thank
we
you.
don't get to see MTA police in Rockland that much.
Rhonda?
Hi, Chief, and congratulations, and thank you for your you and your staff's service to us. I recently received information from the mayor of Bronxville, where she is saying that there's been a problem with vandalism, especially on the weekends, with teenagers and things congregating at that station. Is there anything that can be done to help? They know they need security cameras, but anything that your office can do?
Well, there certainly is, and we'll go back and look at Bronxville and get in touch with you said the mayor's office, and see what we can do to address the problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question for you. I'm all over in Penn Station taking different trains to, you name it, wherever you go, I go. When you say there was no crime in Penn Station, do you mean the station as a whole or the MTA portion of the station?
I am speaking of the Long Island Railroad portion, which we police, and that crime I'm discussing is major felony crime.
Thank you. I understand. It's my experience is somewhat more like Neil's, but not throughout, but definitely. At this point, we're moving on to agency action items. Metro North.
Yes, Metro North has one action item. As we do every year at this time, we're seeking MTA Board's approval to accept $365,000 in a CMAQ grant from the New York State Department of Transportation. This supports our connecting services, the Newburgh Beacon Ferry being one of those. So we would ask for board approval of this action item.
I move this item. Is there a second? Those in favor? Any opposed? Action item passes.
Long Island has no
You have
action
no
items.
action items. So in that case, we move into the procurements, please.
No, actually, the agency information.
Do we have to do that? I want to get through procurements. Okay, we'll go ahead.
So we have one joint information item, which is the
Oh.
PTC report.
Neil.
And I think this is the point at which we would entertain questions from the committee with respect to
Neil.
PTC.
First, congratulations on the progress on PTC. I don't know if Nancy Montgomery is still here, who is our legislator in Putnam County, and also the spouse of Jim Lovell, who passed away at Spite and Dival. I'm glad to see we're making the necessary progress, late though it is by many years, but progress nonetheless. I would ask a question though, and generally we can spend a lot more time on PTC, but I will not accept to ask a pointed question on page 77. Then this is related to the Long Island Railroad only. Maybe Debbie, you can provide some insight. I was struck by this language here in the monthly update tied to the factory acceptance testing, quote, the third attempt. I get really nervous when I see something like that because first attempt, second attempt, third, I mean, that sounds like a lot of attempts. And so, there's that old line that says, harm me once, shame on you, harm me twice, shame on me. So now we're harmed 3 times. I just want to get your sense of when this yellow turns to red. Is it the 4th attempt? And should we be nervous about that?
Sorry for the language, but it's nothing that's unexpected with a complex system like this. So basically, that particular release for Long Island Railroad focuses mostly on the onboard software to deliver back-to-back interlockings. And I can tell you, as of today, we are pretty much close to completing the FAT, and we actually have a success rate of over 90%. So, I mean, we went through a couple of hiccups along the way as far as fixing bugs that we found along the way. You know, we attempted FAT the first time. We found a couple of variances that we knew were not ready for revenue service. We had the contractor go back and fix those problems. They came back with a new version of software we integrated into the lab. We then tested, went through the whole process, found a couple more different variances, fixed those, and now we started the third attempt at FAT on September 16th, and we actually doubled up, as far as testing, the shifts that we were testing. So we're actually, I think, as of this afternoon, we should be complete. And based on the report I got this morning, we're at roughly 92% pass rate. So I would say that we're not out of the woods yet, because the next release obviously is more complicated, additional OBC updates as well as office updates. But like I said, it's not unexpected. It's just that we really don't have a lot of room for error.
No, we don't. Good. Thank you, Debbie. I did want to say one other thing, though. I think Nancy had been out of the room when you made the announcement, Kathy. But congratulations on getting the Upper Hudson into PTC. And if your eyes are good enough to read the Gantt chart related to Metro North, at least you'll notice that there are 2 areas you are ahead of schedule tied to extended RSD, Danbury and Upper Hudson. So if your eyes are good enough to see the difference in the month, at least I did, and I want to congratulate you. You've heard the message and you've been leading on this. So let's get this damn thing done.
No, I appreciate that, Neil, and I want to thank my team for that. I mean, I'm not out there, reprogramming radio cases. It's a real team effort, and I want to thank my team for that.
Veronica.
I was surprised to see that change in leadership and additional resources was identified as a yellow in the update report, particularly because when we had the consortium here before the committee, they very concertedly said that they were devoting a significant amount of resources and making significant organizational change to respond to a lot of the concerns that were raised. So is this still an ongoing issue with having our force fill in the gaps? It's identified as such. So if you could just speak to that, because again, I am surprised given the consortium's very dedicated response to addressing the leadership and organizational gaps.
Okay, so it's still yellow. I'm reluctant to change it to a green. We have had significant changes in leadership and insertion of key staff in certain areas. However, they still have a tendency to lag in certain activities, such as their transponder designs. And the only thing I can assess is that they are short on resources. Not really sure yet, based on their performance, whether it's really a skills issue or a quantity of resources, or it's just plain leadership. So right now, they've made some adjustments. The new leadership only has been on site for less than a month. So I think based on their progress this month, I'll be able to fully assess that situation. They're telling me it's really not a resource issue, but because activities are still slipping in certain areas of concern, I've left it yellow.
Additional questions? I'd like to say that I do see progress, and I'm very happy. The Metro North progress has been significant, but I think you're right in remaining cautious because we're getting close now.
And Phil, do we have anything to report on PTC for Long Island Railroad?
No, I mean, what Debbie said is accurate. We've been meeting on a regular basis with the consortium's executive level staff, and all of the things that were raised, the back-to-back designs, we've been talking with them about the need to tackle that, and they've been transparent with us that it is a yellow as of now, but we had always felt that they could bring this across the finish line. As Debbie said, we're seeing that moving in the right direction. With regards to what Veronica said, we're giving the executive, the new leadership that's in place, opportunity to evaluate themselves, the areas that we felt that they needed to improve, and they've committed to getting back to us and enhancing those different areas now. So it's all positive right now. We're moving in the direction, but we need to stay vigilant on it because 2020 December is fast approaching.
Can I give a little update just for the Long Island Railroad? So we have 3 lines that are running PTC operations. We have both our pilot lines in service, as well as Hempstead, which was a little bit ahead of schedule. And despite the fact that we had this software, setback, we are planning shortly to go into ERSD, extended RSD for West Hempstead, Long Beach, and then Port Jefferson. So, I mean, we are still moving forward and trying to place lines into extended RSD, despite the fact that we had this software issue.
Yes.
I am so pleased that we're on the same page here with this. It's very important that it gets done. Unfortunately, our partners on the other side of the Hudson, nothing is reported. Advocates have been asking, my vice chair, Orrin Getz, and I attend the meetings. We ask for some transparency. The other advocates ask for transparency, and there's absolutely no information being provided to the public. A newspaper report showed that on the FRA website, they had 0 miles on the test, and they still have the same time limit we have. So we need to get someone to really light a fire over there, otherwise there's going to be some major problems.
Randy, understood. I mean, and we have regular service meetings with respect to the West of Hudson service over there, and we will impress upon them the need to be more transparent, at least with respect to our West of Hudson lines. The one thing that I would say is that we are continuing, aggressively the signal upgrades on the Port Jervis, which is our part of that project, but we will try to get more transparency with respect to New Jersey Transit's progress on the West of Hudson lines.
Nobody on the other side of the Hudson can get them to become transparent, so good luck.
Thank you. Other information items quickly?
We have 4. I will run through them quickly, but I do want to pause very briefly on the fall schedule change because there's a lot of good information in there. So we have the 2020 preliminary operating budget, the 2019 final mid-year forecast, the diversity and EEO report for the second quarter, which I understand will be discussed a little bit more in detail at this afternoon's diversity committee meeting, and then the fall schedule change. So Mike will quickly run over the highlights of that because, as I said, there's a lot of good news in there, and I don't want to gloss over that too quickly.
Yes, good morning. On Sunday, September 29th, Metro North schedules will change for our East of Hudson services. Of note, there will be a significant increase in Bronx Harlem Line service. Weekends, stops at Melrose, Tremont, Botanical Garden, Williamsbridge, Woodlawn, and Wakefield will be added to 33 trains. In addition, on weekdays, stops will be added at Melrose and Tremont to 13 midday and evening trains. This is in addition to the restoration of the trains that had been suspended during the Smart Track work. With the Bronx Harlem Line outage work completed, trains will also be restored to their previous timetables. At request of Connecticut DOT, a new train on the New Haven line will be departing Bridgeport at 6:57 a.m., arriving in New Haven at 7:25 a.m. To support reverse commutation. And a Greenwich stop will be added to 2 evening express trains going back to New York to provide customers with evening express service back to New York for a reverse commute. In addition to all that, we will have our typical holiday schedules, which are outlined in great detail in the memo. Notably, fall foliage trains will return to the Hudson line for 3 Saturdays. Our Thanksgiving early getaways will be in place, as will getaways at Christmas. And we will have expanded train consists on adjacent trains, which will replace the shopper specials this year. Finally, we will have extra service for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, as well as special schedules for Martin Luther King Day and President's Day. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? President Ng, you have information items?
I do. The book has the 2019 mid-year forecast, also our full track work program, some of which I talked earlier during my opening remarks, Nassau Switch, Nassau Boulevard Bridge. We also have some east side access work. And let's just see, I think there's one other item. Port Washington Branch, a pedestrian bridge removal by the City Department of Transportation. And Montauk Branch, as I mentioned, the 2 bridge replacements North Main Street and Aquabonic. And then also the diversity EO report, second quarter for 2019, is in the book.
Questions? Moving on to procurements, Metro North procurement first.
Yes, for Metro North, we have 1 competitive procurement. The 1 procurement is to recommend the use of the request for proposal process to select a vendor to design and build 3 new traction-powered substations at Metro North's Goldens Bridge, Croton Falls, and Catota Harlem Line stations. A Metro North traction power study was completed and yielded a power substation strategy which recommended significant Metro North traction power capital improvements. These 3 new substations will harden electrical infrastructure in districts of critical need and will be able to provide a wider coverage in case of failure of an adjacent substation. May I please have a vote on this action?
I move this. Is there a second? Second. Discussion or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor? Any opposed? Long Island Railroad procurement?
Good morning. Likewise, we only have 1 item in this month's package. In the competitive section, there's no items in the non-competitive and no ratifications. The item similarly is a request to use the RFP method for to award a contract to replace the Ocean Avenue substation with an option to replace the Belmore substation. A successful contractor will design, fabricate, deliver, install, integrate, and test the modular substations, including building enclosures, equipment, cabling, and supervisory control systems. In addition, the contractor will be responsible for the design and construction of the foundation system and final site finishings. Railroad forces will connect the substation to the power and communications infrastructure by installing conduit, table switches, and terminations. This item is submitted for your consideration and vote.
I move this procurement. Is there a second? Questions or discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? This passes as well. We're now up to the monthly reports, and you'll find the standard monthly reports from both agencies in the book. Any comments or questions? Yes.
On the operations report, I noticed for West of Hudson service, 16 trains were canceled in July and August. Is there an update, Kathy, on where we are with NJ Transit on moving forward to reduce those outages, those cancellations due to NJ Transit crew not showing up? Let me be specific.
Yeah. And John can jump in if I miss anything. The answer is yes. I mean, they have been much more aggressive with respect to adding new locomotive engineer classes. They're graduating locomotive engineers who are able to serve the Hoboken service. You don't dig out of that hole overnight, but they are committed to adding more classes and getting more locomotive engineers out there. The cancellations are much improved from last summer. Last summer really was affecting the quality of the service. It didn't necessarily come through in the OTP numbers, but the number of canceled trains was really quite alarming, and we talked about that a lot at committee last year. This year, the situation is much improved, but we're not entirely there yet. They, like a lot of other properties, see an uptick in terms of availability issues over the course of the summer vacation season. That should stabilize now that we're in the fall. And we expect and hope that by this time next year, we'll be having a much better conversation about locomotive engineer availability. John, did I miss anything?
The only thing I wanted to state is that our service meeting is actually this afternoon at 1 o'clock, so we'll be getting a further update from New Jersey Transit on PTC hiring and service delivery. As you know, they've had a lot of challenges with PTC and their manpower. I can tell you that the Metro North team is working with them regularly. We actually have a monthly high-level meeting with them. As Kathy stated, they have a hiring strategy for engineers, but that'll take a few months for them to ramp up the workforce that they have. And with regards to PTC, they provided Metro North a schedule for the commissioning of the Port Jervis line, which is going to be sometime next summer. So, the main challenge we have is how they're doing in the remainder of their system. But as far as Metro North's work to install the new signal system and Metro North's work to commission the PTC system, we have adequate forces on hand, and our PTC group is in sync with them to make sure that when they're ready next year, we'll be ready to make sure that gets finished.
Out that the Metro North team is ready to deal with the PTC issues, but the New Jersey transit system has a greater problem that needs to be addressed, and I'd appreciate it if you continue putting the pressure on them. Yes.
So I have a couple of comments on the performance indicators. Is it timely now to talk about that?
This is very timely.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the fares not collected. Both Metro North, which I think is page 199, and the Long Island Railroad, which is 328. I assume this is the sort of symmetric issue to the fare evasion issue, and we've heard a lot of conversation at the Transit Authority of a projection of $265 million is their view of their lost fares. And I know that the IG over the summer was concerned of the methodology and thought they may be underestimating the numbers. I've never seen, and I want to note that the fares not collected are substantially higher in percentage than the Transit Authority, which talks about a 4% overall number, and that the numbers of the Long Island Railroad and Metro North are 5 and higher, and the incorrect fare collected is in double digits. I've never heard a projection of a specific set of numbers for either of the railroads in terms of what is the view of the lost numbers or the specifics of the plan. There's been constant conversation of hiring and hiring and hiring, and I will have comments later on today about the 500 hires of police officers and whether that's the most effective approach. But I haven't heard any plans for the lost fare and the dollars that's involved. And assuming that I understand the revenues are substantially less, but these probably could be in tens of millions of dollars, and clearly something to pay attention to. So I would like to know, and I know time is running short, but But I would like to know that there is a plan, there's a process, there's a timeline, there's the same approach here as Transit is looking at.
There actually is a plan, and my understanding is there's going to be a presentation made by Sue Doring, who's sitting right over there, at Finance Committee, and Mark Young for the railroad, for the Long Island Railroad, at Finance Committee today. We're happy, if you'd like, to summarize now, if you're not going to be at Finance Committee, what the efforts are and what some of the numbers are. Mercifully, the numbers are much smaller in the commuter rails, but to your point, it's still an issue, and an issue that you need to know is being addressed. So
I know time is short now,
Yeah.
so I'm not looking for it. I will go be at the finance.
Oh, you will
session.
be?
Yes.
Oh,
but
perfect,
I do
yeah.
think that that has been noticeably in the 90 days I've
Yeah,
been
but I
around,
understand.
it has been noticeably missing in the conversation.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a presentation this afternoon or this morning, whenever finance is, there's going to be a presentation that Sue will be making on behalf of Metro North and Mark will be making on behalf of Long Island.
Do you have other questions? I know both of the presidents have a statement to make, and then, as promised, we will discuss the capital plan, 2 minutes each.
This is just the monthly report in terms of the operating deficit or loss. Based on results through the end of August, Metro North generated $703 million in revenue and spent $1,053 million, resulting in a net operating loss of $350 million. Lower than expected revenues, mainly reimbursable project receipts, are partially offset by lower than expected expenditures, and the net operating loss through August is higher than what was assumed in the mid-year forecast.
And for Long Island Railroad, through the end of August, we generated $851 million in revenue and spent $1,314 million, resulting in a net operating loss of $462 million. But due to higher than expected revenues, the net operating loss through August is lower than what was assumed in the July mid-year forecast.
Thank you. Now, as promised, we will briefly discuss our concerns or questions about the capital plan. As chair, I'm going to go first, and also because I have some history and perspective on this. This will be my third capital plan that I've experienced in one form or another. I want you to understand that for the last capital plan, many of the board members felt and expressed that the funding was insufficient to address all the needs of the MTA system as a whole. It was expressed that we felt $40 or $50 million was appropriate in that plan. This plan reaches the $50 million. A billion. I don't think in numbers that big. I'm sorry, guys. And I think that's a wonderful achievement. It's a huge advance for us. But it's 5 years later, and we still need much to help us with our state of good repair because we haven't funded it sufficiently going along. Each of us has our partisan desires. You know mine. I want a midpoint yard and 3 passing sidings. And this capital plan gives me 1 passing siding and maybe a quarter of a yard. That doesn't work. But there's something that disturbs me much more than each of our partisan wants and desires. And it's harder to express. When I first came to the MTA Board, the discrepancy between Long Island Railroad and Metro North was 60%, 40% for capital funds. It's now closer to 35, 55, which is a good thing. And in the new funding, it's 10% each, with the rest going to the transit system. That's progress. But everybody has a tipping point, and $1 billion discrepancy is a tipping point. It's too big a miss. It's too big a discrepancy, especially when some of our asks are so small in terms of the total funding. Small dollars compared to a huge discrepancy. I know Kevin has some comments, and I'm going to give him the floor next. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'll be brief as well because I understand we're going to talk more about this plan at the board meeting on Wednesday where we'll be able to share additional comments. But here's the way I look at the plan. You know, and for those who don't celebrate Christmas, I apologize, but I think you'll get the analogy. Sometimes you wake up on Christmas and you see a lot of exciting things and you're really happy about it, and this plan has a lot of those exciting things and things to be happy about. And then you get some things that you know you need, but they really weren't on your wish list, but they're really important anyway for you to have for either your job or your house or whatever. And then, of course, there's always some things that you're hoping to get, but we're not under the tree. And we have those things as well. And I look forward to working with my friends from Metro North as the plan gets implemented and into the future to see if we could address the things that weren't under the tree. And in our instance, it's all related to the Port Jefferson branch. Those are the calls I've been getting from a lot of elected officials. But I'm confident working with Phil and Jano and Pat that we'll be able to address them in the future. Thank you.
Additional comments? Oops. I'll start at that end. Randy.
I'm not going to repeat anything, but the last capital plan had only one project for Rockland County, which is the Spring Valley train station, unspecified improvements. I don't think anything's been done there, but for us, we're looking for 2 passing sidings that would help immeasurably with improving service on a line that has the fewest number of trains anywhere in the system, including New Jersey. We also would like commitments for new equipment. The locomotives we're running on the west of Hudson service date to the mid-1960s. There's a 4-page letter that the county executive sent to the chairman and to President Rinaldi. And I'm not going to repeat them, but it's all in there. So there were 9 things they were looking for. Thank you for the opportunity of speaking.
Thank you. Veronica.
I actually don't have a partisan interest in the Metro North Capital Program, but I do have a personal interest and an advocacy interest. And the $1 billion discrepancy has remained an issue for me, will remain an issue. I'll talk more about it on Wednesday. But I think one of the things I really want to highlight now is the concern in state of good repair backlog. And where we are right now is a 35% backlog in state of good repair projects. And I don't want Metro North to backslide, much like New York City Transit had, because our limited investment over time for some of the critical day-to-day investments we needed in favor of capital projects, which we obviously need as well. And while I don't want Long Island Railroad to get any less, I want Metro North certainly to get more moving forward. And I would like to see that invested in the 450 miles of antiquated rail that we have that cause about 40% of defects on our rail. So these are the sorts of things I've heard consistently from Kathy and from your team about the outstanding needs and capital needs. And while I understand our existing capital program is going towards some very big projects and that we do benefit from East Side access, I never think that those sorts of expansion projects preclude or should preclude significant investment in our existing infrastructure, though we do derive significant benefits from not just East Side access, but from all the capital investments because we are one regional system. So I am going to talk a little bit more about that and what I would love to see on Wednesday. Thank you.
So very quickly, what you already stated, I think this plan is really going to be reliant on the operating budget. And that's, to me, the real reality here because we have to have the funding needed. Squeezing the operating budget is not going to deliver this monster capital plan. Regardless of what's in it, we have to make sure that we fund the operating plan and be responsible with taking care of the funding for it.
2 minutes.
I shall do my best, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. Kevin, I appreciate your thought. I have in my head now to keep Scrooge at bay. I guess that's the thing. And we unfortunately grew up relatively modestly and Jewish, so I don't remember too many presents as a kid, so this is at least consistent. Spoiler alert for me, and what I'm about to say is that this is an emerging good news story. And I want to thank Pat Foy and Kathy Rinaldi, as well as you, Sue. the members of the Putnam County Legislature, my county exec, and a range of elected officials for helping us. But I will tell you that I went into this weekend pretty disappointed by the capital plan and the absence of Putnam's requests. And I won't bore you again with those requests. Some are stations, some are about Hudson Line improvements that my legislator, Nancy Montgomery, mentioned earlier. And that if you recall, when I brought my piece of rebar here a couple of months ago, you know the dilapidated state of at least one of my stations. But I will tell you I had 3 disappointments. The first was, and I won't belabor too much what Susan has brought up, which is the continued imbalance between Metro North and Long Island Railroad. As you know, in the last capital plan, it was 142% more to Long Island Railroad than Metro North, $7.74 billion versus $3.2. Here we have a 21% imbalance, which is not nearly as bad, but still an imbalance, and a disparity with virtually the same ridership is difficult to swallow. And I, as a infrequent resident of Long Island, I appreciate what's happening. Certainly, Penn Station deserves it, but it is an imbalance. My second disappointment was within Metro North. The differential treatment between Southern Westchester and the Bronx versus the northern counties, as well as the disparity between New Haven, Harlem versus Hudson. For the former, you've heard me say many times before, we pay the most and we should not get the least, those of us on the ends of the system, inclusive of Suffolk for that matter. And then for the latter, the Hudson line is the fastest growing. It actually added more riders than both other lines in the East of Hudson combined this year so far, and yet has the least options. That we have Penn Station for the New Haven line is wonderful, but what about Hudson? And my third disappointment was a more metaphorical, or at least theoretical one, I'd say, which is the sacrifice, to sort of Kevin's point about the spinach eating gifts, the sacrifice of the long term over the short term. That many of the things we talk about in this plan for Metro North have been about needed short-term changes to those, sacrificing those sort of, I would describe them as bolder long-term visions along the lines of what our governor has continually done, whether in the Tappan Zee Bridge, Long Island, LaGuardia, or what he's been doing for Long Island Railroad. Planting those seeds for those future projects, like where is our Moynihan? Where is our East Side access? Those are the kind of things that I'm wondering, because I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with the new term limits on this board, none of us are going to be here on this board to see even this capital plan, never mind the next one. And if we are not planting seeds for those things that will be the growth engines for the next decade, then our successors on this board will start all over again, wondering what are we doing over the next horizon. This is one system. Tom Prendergast drilled that into my head when he was the chair of this board, and I agree it should be one system. I am happy for Southeast to give up for Spionk. I am happy for Cold Spring to give up to Cold Spring Harbor. I'm fine to do that. But at some point, the system has to have a minimum threshold of quality across all of it. A rising tide lifts all boats, not some boats. And I'd like to make sure that that is the way we do business. Now, the good news is, and I'll conclude with this, I'm happy to say after a couple of conversations, not just with members of the board and friends of the board, but with Kathy and Pat, I think at least my, if you will, partisan needs, which is why I'm here in part. I'm here for Putnam County. That's who I represent. We will be able to support some of the short-term and longer-term concepts for bold improvement. I appreciate that, Kathy. I know it's hard to deal with this job, especially in the limited envelope, but it is the right thing to do, and I do appreciate that support. I will be here to at least be briefer on Wednesday, but full well knowing we realize these 3 disappointments are ones we have to keep at bay. So thank you.
So much to say, so little time, and I fear that Neil has used all of everyone's time at this point. I've only been here 90 days, first financial plan, but I have a couple of things to say. First, it's an extraordinarily good plan in terms of all of the items that are there. There's all sorts of concerns of can we do it, and I think Jano has given me a substantial sense of that there is hope in some of those areas. But the thing that really is my major concern, and I've seen this in any number of areas, I'm going to be talking about other areas as the 2 days go by of these meetings, but the haste really dramatically concerns me. This is a $54.5 billion plan. We saw the first sketchy report on the 19th, 6 days ago. We didn't see a full report till 6 o'clock on Thursday, and with a idea that this is going to be voted on 6 days later. I think that is unseemly. Doesn't allow people to study and analyze the details. Doesn't allow experts in the public to be involved. The city that has a $3 billion ask in this plan didn't see the plan until minutes before it went public. I do not believe that this is a way that you should deal with a $54.5 billion set of demands. There should be time to review. I think we have a obligation to the public, to the riders, and as fiduciaries, to not engage in this type of haste, and that it is necessary for us to give further review, further consideration. There are many items, notwithstanding 230 pages of writing, there's still lots of items to be worked out. There's still lots of funding issues. None of this is going to be spent tomorrow, and I think that it is, as I've seen in my 90 days here, lots and lots of rush, and I think leading to not giving sufficient time and consideration to important issues. Nothing is bigger that we've been dealing with than a $54.5 billion plan. And I suggest that there should be more time to reflect, consider, and analyze.
You have some comments, Rhonda?
Thank you. I don't want to repeat, but I have the same concerns as the chair with the respect to the $1 billion difference and inequity, and I also echo my colleague, Commissioner Vanderpool, on the state of good repair issues in Metro North.
David, do you have anything you want to add?
Listen, contrary, I'm a Long Island rep, and I just want to keep our systems running on both ends. We have a partnership with Metro North, and I just want to see everything run smoothly.
You have some additional comments, Kevin.
I just feel a need because I feel like there was so many. I know it wasn't the intent of my colleagues, but I'm feeling like Long Island was ganged up on for the last 7 commenters, and that's not fair because I know it's not your intent. We can't be pitting Long Island Railroad versus Metro North. We are one system. We all share in the benefits of a healthy subway system and a healthy Metro North and a healthy Long Island Railroad. And if you do take out the increase monies for the East Side Access Project, I think the funding levels are pretty comparable, and we do need to view East Side Access Project as a project that's going to benefit the entire system and allow for expansion of Metro North into Penn Station as well. And so let's not pit Long Island Railroad versus Metro North. We both need to fight for our fair shares, and I've heard the term partisan used a couple of times. When I think of partisan, I think Republican and Democrat. I've never witnessed anything like that. Here, I think it's more parochial interest as opposed to partisan interest, but that's just me. So I just had to make those points.
Kevin, I think you've triggered something that will result in a much longer debate that I would like to see taken.
That was a tease for Wednesday.
Let's make it a tease for Wednesday. I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. And I'm confident that Metro North and Long Island Railroad and our separate but together committees can work together. But I think we need to have a much longer discussion.
Agree.
It's time for finance. No, it's time for transit. All those in favor?